Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, or if you've been keeping up with the NFL offseason news, you've probably heard about some pretty big developments involving Micah Parsons. Today, we're diving into some exciting news that could have a huge impact on both Parsons' career and the Cowboys' future. So, grab your snacks, sit back, and let's break down what's happening with Micah Parsons' contract and why this move could be a game changer. Now, you might be wondering what's all the buzz about Micah Parsons right now. Well, according to a report from Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News, the Cowboys have officially picked up the fifth-year option on Micah Parsons' rookie contract. But here's the twist: they've decided to classify him as a defensive end, not a linebacker. This move might seem like a small technical detail, but trust me, it's much more significant than it sounds, especially when we're talking about dollars and cents in the NFL. The reason for this is that there's a financial difference between Parsons being listed as a linebacker versus being listed as a defensive end. And that difference? Well, it saves the Cowboys nearly $3 million. Now, let's break this down even further. If the Cowboys had kept Parsons' classification as a linebacker, he would have earned a hefty sum of around $24 million in the final year of his rookie contract, which is the 2025 season. That's a lot of money, especially when you think about the kind of talent Micah Parsons has become. But by reclassifying him as a defensive end, they've been able to lower that figure to $21.32 million. So, they've managed to save just over $2.7 million by making that move. Sounds like a smart business decision, right? But here's the kicker: Parsons still has one more year left on his current deal. For the 2024 season, he'll be playing under a base salary of just $2.9 million, with an additional $2.4 million signing bonus. That's all before his fifth-year option kicks in for 2025, which, as we just mentioned, will come with a more substantial price tag depending on how they classify him. But don't get it twisted: Parsons is already one of the highest paid players at his position, and he's still got plenty of potential to earn more in the future. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room: Micah Parsons' position. While he was originally drafted as a linebacker, we all know by now that Parsons doesn't just play one position. In fact, he's one of the most versatile and dynamic players in the league, and he's been used all over the field. Sure, he's listed as a linebacker, but Parsons is a true game changer who can line up at defensive end, outside linebacker, or even rush the passer from the interior. Last season in 2023, Parsons racked up a career-high 14 sacks, 18 tackles for loss, 33 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. If you look at those numbers, you start to see why the Cowboys are so eager to find any way they can to maximize their financial flexibility while keeping one of the NFL's top young defenders in the fold. And here's something crazy: Parsons actually spent 87.8% of his snaps in 2023 at defensive end. Yep, nearly 90% of the time, he was lined up on the edge, wreaking havoc on opposing quarterbacks. So, when you consider all of this, it becomes clear why the Cowboys might want to list him as a defensive end. He spends the vast majority of his time rushing the passer. And if you think his agent, David Mulugheta, is going to let this fly without a challenge, think again. There's a chance that Mulugheta could file a grievance regarding the positional classification, but the Cowboys are pretty confident that they'll win any dispute that comes their way. But honestly, all of this might be moot if the Cowboys and Parsons camp can come to an agreement on a long-term extension before his fifth-year option even kicks in. You see, while the Cowboys are looking at ways to save a little cash in the short term, they know just how crucial Parsons is to their future. And with how talented he is, there's no doubt that the Cowboys are going to do everything they can to lock him up for the long haul. Now, speaking of long-term deals, let's talk about what kind of contract Micah Parsons could be looking at. I don't think it'll come as a surprise to anyone that Parsons is about to become one of the highest paid defenders in NFL history. In fact, he might just be gunning for the top spot, and why wouldn't he? He's one of the most disruptive players in the league, and his impact on games is undeniable. If you need a comparison, look no further than Nick Bosa, the star pass rusher for the San Francisco 49ers. Bosa signed a historic 5-year, $170 million contract ahead of the 2023 season, which included $88 million in guaranteed money. This contract makes Bosa the highest-paid defensive player in NFL history, and it sets a new benchmark for Parsons' upcoming deal. If Parsons is looking to match or surpass Bosa's deal, we're talking about some serious cash, and that means a salary that could easily eclipse $50 million per year in average annual value. Now, you might be asking yourself, can the Cowboys afford that? Well, that's where things get tricky. As we all know, the Cowboys have some other massive contracts on the books already, especially when you consider Dak Prescott's contract and CeeDee Lamb's impending extension. Signing Parsons to a deal in that $170 million range, while also keeping Dak and CeeDee happy, is going to require some serious financial acrobatics from the Cowboys front office. We're talking about some cap gymnastics here, folks. Let's not forget, the Cowboys have had their fair share of struggles in the postseason. Yes, they've had plenty of regular season success, but when it comes to the playoffs, they've had their disappointments. If they want to get over the hump and contend for a Super Bowl, they know that keeping the core of their team intact is absolutely essential. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, that's the trio that could propel the Cowboys back to glory. But here's the thing, without all three of them, it's going to be incredibly difficult for the Cowboys to build a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So, no matter how tough the cap situation gets, the Cowboys have no choice but to prioritize keeping this group together. And speaking of postseason success, let's just imagine for a second what it would look like if the Cowboys were able to build around this incredible talent. You've got Dak Prescott leading the offense, CeeDee Lamb as the go-to receiver, and then on the other side of the ball, you have Micah Parsons, one of the most dangerous pass rushers in the game. That's the kind of trio that can not only make a deep playoff run but possibly even capture that elusive Super Bowl title. It's going to be a tough road ahead, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but the Cowboys have some serious building blocks in place. So, what's next for Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys? Will they be able to get a long-term deal done before his fifth-year option kicks in? Will they have the cap space to make it work, or will they need to make some tough decisions in the near future? One thing's for sure, we're in for a wild ride, and the Cowboys' offseason is far from over. Before I let you go, I want to know what you think. Do you think Micah Parsons deserves to be the highest-paid defensive player in the league? And how do you feel about the Cowboys' decision to classify him as a defensive end instead of a linebacker? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL updates, news, and analysis. We'll keep you covered with everything you need to know about your favorite teams and players. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay tuned for more NFL action.